We begin this midday with an update to breaking news we've been following in North Tulsa since early this morning. Crews busy with a big cleanup job after a Burlington Northern train derailed overnight, coming off the tracks in 3 sections. This happened along the 1-mile stretch between Yale and Sheridan, just north of Pine. 2 News reporter Patricia Santos has been at the scene covering this story all morning, and she's there live now with more from the train company. Patricia?
Hey, that's right, Justin. I want to show you in the background right now. You can see crews working the train derailment right now. This is very impressive. Already they have moved about 8 of those vehicles right side up. Right now they're telling me that the weather conditions, the very muddy ground here is slowing them down. But you can see all of the trains already lined up here on the side of the road. Most of them carrying brand new Kia vehicles. Of course, all of them will have to be sent back to the manufacturing company to be scrapped. But Tulsa Fire Department telling us it has been years since they have seen a train derailment of this magnitude. Crews have started the difficult task of moving roughly 20 railroad cars from the crash site. Cars carrying thousands of dollars worth of new vehicles and other cargo. Witnesses say the sound of the crash was just as impressive as it looks.
But this was a continuous bang for a while, and it was loud. I thought, I'd hate to think that'd be a derailment.
Minutes later, Tulsa fire crews were on the scene.
Our initial role was to make sure that there weren't any injuries, and that we didn't need to do any rescues. And there was a hazmat spill. Had a diesel tank under one of the engines that was carrying about 3,000 gallons of diesel fuel.
It was spilling out from the locomotive engine into the storm drain system and into an underground creek.
They had to get out and actually walk through the creek beds and determine how far it went upstream and downstream. It's pretty level right in there, so it actually migrated upstream a little ways.
Crews say they were lucky this time. A derailment this size could have been bad.
If they're carrying something else, then we've got a lot of other issues, and we may have to evacuate or, quarantine areas. But that wasn't the case here.
Back live on the scene now. Crews telling us it will take several days to actually clear the ground with that diesel that was spilled, but the water should be cleared by the end of today. And Burlington Northern officials have just arrived on the scene here to tell us exactly how this happened. Now, Justin, I want to tell you that these are Kias here, Kia vehicles, but just up the street, that is where the Mercedes are. Live in North Tulsa, Patricia Santos, 2 News works for you.
But overnight, another twister touchdown even closer to home. Take a look. This is some cell phone video of that tornado forming, then coming down in Broken Arrow. It's shot by one of our reporters. Broken Arrow police say the tornado was spotted in several different locations starting around 8:40 last night. Now, we have 2 News reporters Brianne Palmerini and Patricia Santos. They are live in Broken Arrow. They've been surveying the damage all morning for us. 2 News reporter Patricia Santos, she's going to show us where police are reporting the most damage this morning. Patricia?
Well, we're in a neighborhood near 91st and Oneida, and I want to show you this. This is kind of the debris that we're seeing scattered all over the area. There are small trees that were just plucked out of the ground here, and I want to show you, this is the home that we're seeing the most damage on this morning. You can see there are also power lines that were brought down as a result of that, and you can actually see the garage and maybe part of the attic that are exposed there now. All of that debris just pretty much blew all over this neighborhood. One of those residents here that lives here is Mark Cochran. Your house is just right across the street. What type of damage are you seeing there?
The only damage I really have to my house is there's some boards that went through the roof. There's 3 or 4 boards that went down through the roof of the house. Other than that, I had one broken window, and that was about it. And it was all from the debris from these other homes that were just blown into my house.
Now, you were not home at the time, but you tell me you were pretty close to this area and you saw this storm coming.
Yeah, I was actually sitting down on the corner of 91st and Oneida and saw the tornado touch down, and it was coming right towards my neighborhood, so I just stayed right there. And it looked like it got about to the edge of my neighborhood. This neighborhood just west of us, Rolling Meadows, took most of the damage, and then it went back up in the air and went across the turnpike, and I guess it didn't touch back down. I don't know after that.
And after seeing all of the devastation and more, I know you're pretty happy your home's still standing.
Yeah, I was, compared to what they had, we were pretty lucky here, I guess, so.
All right. Thanks so much, Mark. And, the home here right now, we're told there was a pool that was behind it. It's gone, too. So just some of the information that we're getting this morning. We'll send it back to you.
Now, Tulsa police still on the scene of a homicide investigation. A man was found dead, lying in the yard next to his driveway. G News reporter Patricia Santos was first on the scene this morning, and she joins us now live with the latest. Patricia?
48-year-old Wayne Bell was found laying next to that trash can that you see right behind us here. Now, Tulsa police have just wrapped up the scene a few minutes ago. They first got a call about a man down around 5:30 this morning, but they could not find a body. Another call then came in around 7:30, and that's when the victim was found. This morning, neighbors are describing him as a good guy, and his family is sending out a very emotional plea for the suspect to turn himself in.
Just turn yourself in, man. That's all I want. Just turn yourself in. Let me just tell me. Just tell me something.
A plea from a grieving son.
Anybody that know anything, come forward.
When Tulsa police arrived to the corner of East Young Court and Urbana Avenue, they found a black man face down, shot dead in his front yard.
He was in relatively dark clothing, laying on a dark street that people could have been driving by at night and not seen anything.
I'm talking to the neighbors and walking through the neighborhood.
His neighbors can't believe this happened to the man they thought of as neighborly.
Pretty good guy. He's cordial, speaks to everybody, waves. We have small talk. He's no problem.
Right now, police don't know when or how the shooting happened. They're relying on neighbors for help.
We're looking at call logs to see what happened in this area, interviewing any of the people that live in this area, see if they heard anything or maybe saw anything.
Brian Buggs lives across the street. His son heard what he thought were firecrackers.
Last night between 11 and 11:30, he heard some noise. The neighbor did as well, and we just didn't think anything of it since it's holiday season.
But more startling, he says, the night before he witnessed a shooting right outside the house.
About 11:30, 10 o'clock, somewhere between there, we heard a loud gunshot. She jumped up. I jumped up, looked out the window, saw somebody standing on the corner right there, and nothing else happened came of it.
Police say there were calls about an incident at the home earlier in the week, and they tell us there were bullet holes in the front door, but say a shooting like this is rare in this area.
This is the first time in a long while I remember a shooting like this in this area.
And as you can imagine, it was a very emotional scene out here for family members. EMSA had to be called out here to tend to the victim's wife, who was just distraught at having to identify his body. Now, the victim's son says he was a sports coach at Jackson Elementary School. Live in North Tulsa, Patricia Santos, 2 News works for you.
And that breaking news happening in South Tulsa this morning, a multiple shooting in what is normally a quiet neighborhood.
One man is dead. 2 News reporter Patricia Santos is live near 71st and South Sheridan with the very latest on the search for a suspect. Patricia?
Well, that shooting happened about 4 hours ago, but you can see right behind me here, Tulsa police officers are still working the scene. The shooting actually happened inside the garage here at this South Tulsa home. We are still waiting for a suspect description from police. Now, 2 News was there this morning as EMSA carried out one of those victims. We understand he was in stable condition when he was taken to the hospital. Police got several calls from neighbors about shots fired around 12:45 this morning, and when they got here, they found 3 men were shot. They haven't been identified yet, but we understand one of them is in critical condition and the other is dead. Inside the house was a child and another resident who was sleeping but heard the disturbance and stepped out to find the bloody scene.
It appears that 3 subjects were inside the garage when a car pulled up. There were some words exchanged, and then several shots were fired at the residence.
We understand those suspects then got into a vehicle and drove southbound here in this area. There was a helicopter that was called out to search for that suspect vehicle, but so far we have not been able to get any information about what they were able to find. We know that officers here are waiting for the coroner's office to show up and pick up the body. We're going to continue to stay on the scene and bring you the latest on this breaking story. Live in South Tulsa, Patricia Santos, 2 News works for you.
Happening right now, Tulsa police and Tulsa Public Schools investigating a school bus rollover accident. Police say the driver had a suspended license. Happened around 6:30 this morning along 41st near 145th East Avenue. The child and driver were not hurt. The driver had just made his first stop and was headed to drop off kids at Wright Elementary School. 2 News reporter Patricia Santos is live in East Tulsa with more on what police think happened. Patricia?
Well, that bus was headed eastbound here on 41st Street, and you can see there are still skid marks on the road. This right here is where officers think the tire on that bus initially went off the road. You can see the road here has just been repaved, and you can see it's pretty uneven here. Well, this plus rain conditions is what officers believe caused this rollover.
Well, there was an animal on the street. He tried to get in control, but the thing just flipped over.
8-year-old Cambria Thomas explains what she saw just minutes before her school bus ended up like this.
I was sitting right where it flipped over.
Police say the driver helped her get through the emergency exit, both unhurt. Tulsa police say the driver was driving with a suspended license, but they're still trying to figure out what went wrong.
One of his tires went off the roadway, and as he came back on the roadway, he overcorrected. The bus went sideways, and you can see by the skid marks that then went off the road and landed on his.
Investigators say the sharp drop and possibly wet, slick roads may have been a factor.
When you're driving on the roadway, you need to pay attention to the roadway, and obviously if you go off the roadway, you're not paying attention to what you're doing. I don't know what he was doing while he was driving the school bus, but something made him veer off the roadway.
The driver has been identified as Charles West. Officers say he failed to pay a ticket for expired tags. Tulsa Public School officials on the scene didn't know about his driving history.
I'm not 100% aware of. We'll investigate that and take the appropriate action.
They say he's been with TPS for 2 years and has a safe driving history. Thomas's mother, also a TPS school bus driver, needed some consoling this morning.
I told her what happened.
What did she say?
She just kind of got tearing because she thought I was dead.
Now, her mother did take her to the hospital just to make sure she was okay. She told me that she was wearing her seatbelt on there, and the driver had just made his first stop. Otherwise, officers tell us this could have been a very terrible accident. And we just got off the phone with Tulsa Public Schools, and they tell us that driver lost his license just last week on September 11th. Live in East Tulsa, Patricia Santos, 2 News works for you.